Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Liftoff interview. I am here with Yin and Yang's The Guy That Gets. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good today, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty great, and it's great to hear that you're also doing great. Liftoff is coming around pretty soon. I'm sure you're very excited for that.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, how far do you think your team will get?
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be aiming for NASL no matter what, because I'm the kind of person who just aim as high as possible. I never just choose to settle for less. Like if we don't make it, it is what it is. But I'm not gonna just say, well, I want to be conservative. No, fuck that. I'm gonna go as high as possible and high as possible we can go. I have faith in my teammates, and I also have faith in myself.
Hey, good to hear that you have the confidence because really you can't be at the top if you don't have the confidence for it. Now, one thing I also wanted to ask you, which teams do you think will make it to landing?
Well, I'm not very well versed in the professional scene of the game. I'm very brand new to it. So just looking at teams like the Rose Petals, that's a pretty good team. Platinum exclusive, very big favorites. And our team, World Chills, I honestly think is an interesting team. You never expect any like you don't know what to expect from those people. Like those guys are interesting to watch. And the other one, it's gonna sound off the wall, but the power of friendship. I was the only other person to put him in the pick'ems. I feel like they're another team that can just shock everybody.
Hey, I mean, they could, right? They could do what they did before. Now, I mean, one thing I wanted to ask, well, you did mention you're not particularly familiar with a lot of the competitive scene. Two of the teams that a lot of people had as like making it out or near the top were Return to Form and Modern Magic. Looking at the players kind of on those teams, any thoughts about them? Have you seen any of them in your games?
Well, I can assure you this. Of like, well, on Modern Magic, Carmine is one player I want to absolutely play against. He is literally he can do my playstyle, but he's fundamentally better as a player. So I always look forward to playing against people like him. And like his team is also pretty stacked. And Return to Form, I don't know why they're seated so low. This seems like a pretty good team to me. Hook resets, Muffin, Leo, all seem like pretty good players, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do pretty well too.
Yeah, so as a quick clarification, the list I gave you is not the actual seating, it's just the order in which
Oh,
they
okay.
qualified.
All right, but
So, yeah.
let me answer that again.
Go ahead.
So I would say Hook resets, Leon, and Muffin Kofi. Pretty solid team. I think that they're gonna do pretty well, but I can't really give you an idea of like how well I think they're gonna do.
Hey, that's completely fair, honestly. But yeah, going back to you talking about Carmine, right? Are there like just Carmine, or are there any other teams that you're interested to play against, or any players?
Well, if we're talking about interesting teams, first off is Wold Chills. Absolutely, 100%. Between Taco, Cakes, and I'm gonna be honest, the other side to the KL coin ZZZ, absolutely would love to play against them. Those are the kind of people that's just like you're gonna have a fucking hell of a match when you play with them. Another team I want to play against, or player specifically, Gwimmy. Gwimmy is my all-time rival. People don't really know it, but me and Gwimmy always go back and forth every single game we play against each other. It's fucking majestic every single time we get to play against each other. So I really hope I get a chance to play against them sometime in this tournament. And Carmine, I already said enough, but once again, he can do the KO Asher shit, and people underrate him, in my opinion. Like people look at me like, oh yeah, he's a KOing genius. Carmine can do the exact same thing I can do, but he's just a solid player as well. Oh,
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
last one, my bad. Sovereign. Hey, I want the people put respect on my boy, man. That dude, he believes in the KO Asher, and honestly, I've seen him also do pretty well with it. So I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up too as a forward.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of Sovereign, right? I talked to him a little bit before this, and he said he was really interested for the A rematch, and he won't let what happened last time happen again. Do you have any words for that?
I mean, shit. That sounds pretty damn serious. It sounds like a showdown at dawn is about to happen. It's like gonna be a duel to the death. But if he really believes that, I'm gonna let him believe it. But I'm gonna change the reality when it comes down to it. Shit's gonna happen no matter what.
All right, I'm excited to see how that match goes down, especially since both of y'all seem to be pretty interested to face one another. But one thing I do want to ask you, right? Is there anything you'd like to say to anyone in particular? Any shout outs, any call outs?
All right, let me get the list right now. It's pretty long. We might be here for a moment. Nah, I'll keep it short. Well, first off, 100%, gotta shout out Bonds. Absolutely. Dude is fucking great at the game, just 100%. And I would say people may not know this, but I wasn't very well welcomed in the upper brackets of the Omega Striker player base. I was how do I say this? I wouldn't say alienated, but I wasn't the guy that you would want on your team for a long period of time. And I would say Vons is probably one of the first people to welcome me kind of into like being pro league or being good enough to be considered in the category of like discussion. So 100% Vons is one of the first people I'll say. Sovereign, fellow Asher forward player, you can't speak any less about that. He's a great player too, fun person to be around. Zoe the Witch is also a fun person too. My teammates, of course, and another guy. He doesn't play Omega Strikers anymore, but really good friend of mine now because he was probably one of the first people to like see the potential I had. His name is like Po P Po, and honestly, he doesn't play much anymore. But it's just I'm just glad to have him as a friend. And last person I like to shout out myself. It sounds arrogant, but I mean, shoot, I gotta have confidence in myself, and I'm glad I did to even have the confidence to be up here.
Hey, I mean, you were in fact the guy who got. Well, this is just liftoff, right? You still have more work to do,
Oh
right?
yeah, job's not finished, job's not done.
Job's not finished. And, well, with that, thank you once again, the guy that gets, for coming on to this interview.
No problem.
Yeah, and with that, viewers, don't go anywhere. Looking forward to see you guys coming to liftoff. Bye.
Deuces.